Hello and welcome. Carlton lost their third game in 4 weeks against Collingwood. Look, this portion of the season was never going to be easy, and whilst the Blues had a fighting chance of stealing the points when they had absolutely no right to, the Pies stabbed the Blues in the heart again at the death.
They desperately need Daicos here, Collingwood. He needs to be the match winner. He needs to be all over him in the last quarter with his run.
Thanks, Brownie. With losses come disappointment, a number of scapegoats responsible, and problems uncovered. But today, amidst all the doom and gloom, we're going to look at one player who I think can hold his head up high for the job that he did on one of Collingwood's most dangerous players. Bobby Hill's most known for his performance on Grand Final day last season. Electric with 4 goals, an absolute live wire, which makes the effort to hold him to 8 disposals and a goal a commendable effort. More commendable when you consider that the goal and half the touches happened in the 4th quarter. Bobby Hill is a low possession, high impact player, and whilst he showed off some moments of class in the 4th, he could have been far more destructive, and this game would have been dead in the water. It's also an admirable feat on the night for the fact that Carlton was smashed in inside 50s, which obviously means that the ball is in the area of the field where Bobby Hill is going to be, and Collingwood Smalls seemed uncontainable at times. Who was the man responsible, you may ask? Alex Cincotta in his first game of the season. Cincotta's stats were completely average, though Michael Voss loves to talk about players succeeding in their given role, and that doesn't concern numbers. Here's what he said pre-game about that philosophical element, tracking back to last year and the success we had.
Certainly the clarity on the roles was something that the players really took on, and that commitment to defend first was always, become a really high priority for this group. And sometimes it just slips down the pecking order a little bit when you're chasing a lot of things, because you're always trying to grow different parts of your game, and we just need a little realignment, I think, back on what's really important to us.
All Cincotta had to simply do was just play the traditional lockdown defender role and stop his direct assignment at all costs. To Vossi's point, Cincotta's priority was defense, and his performance was a step in the right direction towards that realignment that Vossi is alluding to. How did he do this for the most part? Let's find out. If you do go on to enjoy, make sure to drop a like and subscribe if you are new so you can tune in for analysis next week. And if you'd like to support the channel financially, there is a channel membership for $1.50 a month. Enjoy the video. So the bare bone basics of being a lockdown defender: defend. Cincotta cycled through a number of opponents and practically wore them all like a glove. He remained glued, I'll say, 8 times out of 10. There were moments where he would take a gamble and peel off slightly, or be on the opposite side of the stoppage, but he was disciplined the majority of the time. So much so that he was charged with the responsibility of playing on the deepest small forward in acres of space a fair portion of the time. In this transition sequence, Cincotta does a great job to check Bobby Hill in transition, engaging with him not once, but then when Hill creates a bit of separation, he'll meet Bobby Hill twice to block his direct straight line run towards the goal square. It's a bit of a pity this free kick was given away by Zach Williams, and it wasn't the first time Williams did it either. In the 4th, Cincotta is looking to do what he did in the 1st quarter, but the physicality element isn't there. And I mean, the guy's a freak. Top draw finish. As a defender, you'd be feeling pretty stiff to give this one away, but this speaks to the respect you need to pay Hill, for that's how good a player he is. In the late game, Cincotta does a great job here, as he picks up Jamie Elliott with the high pressure late game moments in Collingwood's forward line transpiring. First, does well in a one-on-one, then ticks the boxes with the upcoming stoppage. No free kick conceded, no deliberate. This is a great example that highlights Cincotta's excellence and what happens if Bobby Hill is even afforded a little amount of time. Cincotta reads the play excellently, but given he's committed and is now on the ground, Hill has remained upright and the lines haven't been cleared, Cincotta will never reposition onto Hill. He finds himself caught in the play on the run back, and Hill has gotten deeper by this stage as Pies reinforcements can usher it forward. Luckily, it doesn't seep over the back with the free kick given away, because he sent Cottrell to the shops with the sidestep afterwards. This is almost a mirror image. Good attack on the footy, playing front spot, but doesn't clear his lines. Hill gets it on the attacking side and hits a lace out pass. such a satisfying hit up and so damaging. On this example, Cincotta keeps checking him along the boundary line, then when he sees Hill is going up, he recognizes Hill's going to have to crash the pack because he's late to the contest and there's like 3 others protecting the drop zone. So he remains glued the minute the ball lands, anticipates the positioning of Hill after he disengages with the contest, and he doesn't commit to the contest himself. But then you'll see the importance of remaining active, and yet again speaking to the fact of respecting Bobby Hill. Watch him at all times. He quickly goes from in control to leaving his assignment with an uncontested pickup 5 meters away from goal. Here's an example where Hill gets space on Cincotta by a simple block at the stoppage. That space between isn't closed down, and so the separation can be exploited, for Hill has shaken free from the shackles. Cincotta's got him where he wants him, but that simple jump and movement off the landing is so tough to anticipate because it's 2 rapid, quick movements. That's why the Hill matchup is so tough to manage. I will stress though that whilst Cincotta held major responsibility, he needs help in front of him, much like the other defenders with their matchups. You try defend a player as quick as Bobby Hill with all that space in transition, I mean, it's going to be very difficult to manage and very difficult to contain. On this example, it's very tough for Hill to be caught, but it is helped by the fact that the kick is sent to where the outnumber will result. It's boundary side, and Hill is running into that same space. Cincotta's running on the inside to prevent the gap between him and Hill worsening. So for all the real estate open here, this is what Hill is confined to, so that limits the damage. This example shows the importance of two-way running as a winger. Cottrell getting back allows Cincotta to become a loose man and peel off, knowing Cottrell has Bobby Hill covered. Here, Cincotta does decently well to keep up with Hill in an open forward line, but Carlton's numbers help out. Wheatering's in front, meaning the kick will have to be pinpoint precise. Even still, it's going up high for that distance, and Wheatering is favourable for this type of kick. Daicos is to Cincotta's left, great assistance. The kick's poor anyway. Then you have the bad and the lack of assistance. Here, I mean, the Williams kick is helping no one. Cincotta's set up for a short pass, Hill's playing zone almost. He's not meant to end up in this much space, Collingwood in possession, this far out from goal. Cincotta's got to commit himself, but Bobby Hill is open for a long time, and that screams danger. Here, Cincotta's playing superbly on Hill, keeps up pace-wise, but Daicos in the stoppage opens the entire play up. Pendlebury is the time and space, Hill also has the space, and Cincotta doesn't really stand a chance with a delivery this good. Then, Hill himself hits up Hoskin Elliott with a laser pass. Usually these marks should be taken out in front, not at the chest, but the fast velocity and flat trajectory of the kicks both times make it tougher to spoil as the player meets it with pace. It just locks into place to bear hug the ball, and it depicts both Carlton needing to avoid these situations at stoppage and the damage of Hill when he's in possession, as we've seen already. On this example, Cincotta falls asleep, doesn't really check Hill at any stage, and he takes a mark from the lead up, simply needing to catch an unsuspecting Cincotta off guard. But this is really spaced out by the Blues. If this is an attempted zone defense, it's a pretty shit one. Interestingly enough, one of the reasons Bobby Hill may have been out of the play more often than not, compromising his disposal count, was because he was on the weak side of the field a lot of the time. Knowing the previous point of him being a live wire, loving space, Collingwood wanted him furthest from the epicenter of the action, so he could dominate for the lack of congestion out there with his pace. But a lot of this game was linear down the line, so you didn't see as much of Hill and that strategy being capitalized on. That definitely went into Cincotta's favor, but in the final quarter of the game, Hill was assisted as that element of the game was fed into more so, intentionally or not. Cincotta held up, that all being said, for the most part. Here's one intentional example earlier in the contest. Cincotta does superbly with the spoil, but Hill forces the stoppage. You can see that effectiveness with another small forward in this sequence. Hill is over there, but it's Elliott who introduces a bit of doubt with a bit of unpredictability as the ball is swung across and space is present. Carlton all of a sudden needing to fill up the open space, double commit, as Elliott breaks clear and it flies over the back. It's not a Hill example, but it definitely shows how a small forward brigade like Collingwood's thrive in these conditions, and that could speak to the strategy of playing Hill where he was based. Here, Cincotta's on the bench, but I don't really think it matters who you got on the field. The turnover allows the open side to be freed up and Bobby Hill to use the space to stretch Carlton's back line as much as possible, as quickly as possible. Here again, I don't know why Cottrell's assigned with the task of defending Hill, but you can see the space and you can see his goal side. It's a rough watch if the kick isn't as over-exaggerated to Hill's right. Now we can also shed some light on the attacking stuff as well. The real issue with lockdown defenders, and this isn't a Cincotta problem, it's actually a personnel issue, that multi-dimensional halfback role with both defensive lockdown ability and attacking threat off halfback that you would get out of a player like Adam Saad isn't there. Cincotta was a part of link-up chains, but not as a ball carrier, more so as the connecting piece with handball. It doesn't really hold the small forward you're playing against accountable for that fact, especially given Carlton's handball game broke down due to Collingwood pressure across the night. You'll see here, Cincotta get involved in the play down the middle. Is this potentially the wrong option? Could he sweep the handball wider about here, sucker Pie's defender in, then Carlton players filled the space that was left? Potentially, but ultimately, Cripper running inward means he has to sidestep, albeit ineffectively, and the handball adopts a loopy trajectory, becoming a hospital hand pass. The man that we said could be drawn with a sweeping handball wide ends up running down the tackler. I understand the need to go quick and the corridor enabling a direct entry inside 50, but instead of cramming themselves within the heat of the Pies, a little bit more space may have delivered a different outcome. Interestingly enough, if we span back to the Cottrell Hill incident late in the fourth when Cincotta was off, even though at first glance it actually looked like a terrible moment, we actually got something really good out of that. Now, remember that little thing I said about what Cincotta's lockdown role compromises? The attacking edge and the accountability that's missing for Bobby Hill. Whilst Cottrell was out of depth, having to play on someone like Hill when the Pies had it, Hill isn't conditioned to play on Cottrell because he hasn't really had to track a run all night. As it so happens, Cottrell's goal in the late game comes off the back of this role reversal, and Bobby Hill never tracking back to follow Cottrell, who was on the end of a superb individual skill execution by Charlie. So overall, whilst a ton of Carlton players fell short of standards, Alex Cincotta did what he was instructed to do and can hold his head up high for what he was able to contribute. He did have moments where Bobby Hill got the better of him, and the lockdown role may have compromised other elements of the game, but dealing with players like Hill is one of the toughest gigs in the game. And look, I think we can cut Cincotta some slack given Hill was kept uncharacteristically quiet. There were others that were of similar stature in a game which called for leadership and courage, but it came sparingly. What did you think of Cincotta's game? What other contributors in your eyes kept the game from going out of reach for the Blues? Let me know in the comments. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day. We'll chat to you next week. Bye for now.